Hyperdimension Neptunia Rebirth1 is the remake of the first entry in the Neptunia series of JRPGs developed by Idea Factory, Compile Heart, and Philistella, and published by Idea Factory. Man, that's a mouthful. I first came across Neptunia by watching the anime series. It was around the time when I first started really getting into anime and watching all the seasonal stuff. It had cute girls doing cute things and it looks like a video game, so I took interest in it. I dropped it after 3 episodes. Then I checked out the games on Steam and they're all positively received, so I decided to try them out. It took a couple of times, but I kinda got into it. It's got a lot of video game and anime hijinks, and as an otaku and weeb and gamer, I had to cover this at some point. The graphics are pretty basic looking. This was originally a PS Vita game and a budget one at that, so you can't expect too much from it. The character and enemy designs are very cute and heavily referenced from video games, old and new. From dating sims to RPGs, you're sure to find an enemy you can recognize if you're a gamer. The game is set in game industry, where 4 nations, each with their own goddess, rule their own section of the world and compete in a console war. Sounds familiar. You can tell where each goddess is from and their real life counterparts by just looking at them. Except for Neptune. She's supposed to be referencing the cancelled Sega Neptune console, but Sega doesn't make consoles anymore. Now that I think about it, this whole game can be seen as the devs coping over the loss of Sega in the console war. This game isn't even published by Sega, like what the fuck? The story is told through the visual novel sections and the 2D models they used are pretty blurry on a monitor. They're like the one thing that didn't get redone during the porting process. The backgrounds and story art are pretty detailed and sharp, so it's kinda weird they left the 2D models out. The PC version can't go past 1080p without a mod, so that's ass. The mouse and keyboard controls are shit too, with the need to hold down the left mouse button to move the camera, and it's not rebindable. If the footage looks scuffed when the camera moves, now you know why. It doesn't affect the overall game too much since it has turn-based combat, so you don't need to move the camera much, but still, it shouldn't be a luxury to be able to move the camera without holding down a button. Fucking Yakuza use gamepads. At least the game runs well at 60 FPS, though the game doesn't have any graphics options besides resolution. You can run the game with a potato, so it's not too bad. Overall, the graphics and PC port are just okay. It works, and that's more than what I can say for some modern games released on PC nowadays. The combat is where the good shit's at. This is a turn-based RPG, but it doesn't feel like it because it's pretty fast-paced. Before attacking, you can move and select which enemy to attack. This is the best part of any turn-based RPG I've played, no joke. Basically, whatever you can get in your hitbox, you can attack, and the box can expand depending on which weapons you use. It's really fun trying to line up as many enemies as you can and whack them to death. It's addictive and satisfying in a weird way. Line up 2, 3, 4, or every enemy in the encounter and go to town. I love it. There are 3 types of attacks: break, power, and rush. Enemies have a health bar and guard bar. The lower the guard bar, the more damage you do. To lower guard faster, you do break attacks, and when you want to do damage, use power attacks. You can also transform into your HDD goddess form for extra damage and booblage. If you're fighting a boss, use rush attacks to build up your EXE meter to do your ultimate attacks to really fuck shit up, and you can unlock more EXE moves by linking with other goddesses via the Lily rank system. It's a system where you can pair party members with one another and get buffs. The more you pair Neptune up with another party member, the higher their Lily rank, which can unlock bonus moves and all that. It takes a lot of grinding to get to the higher ranks though, so that sucks, but the moves you get are cool to watch, so it's kinda worth it. You can use discs, which you can equip modifiers to, that you can equip on the characters to make them get more EXP or get more Lily rank points and all that. So you can use that to minimize the grind. Speaking of grinding, this is a grind heavy game. There will be a few instances where bosses will tickle your anus and slip in a finger or two, so you gotta level up. Even if you fight every encounter in a map at least once, you won't have enough levels, so yeah, get good. I grinded for a total of 3 sessions, each last around 2 hours, so there's 6 hours of doing the same thing over and over again. You can get the help of plans, which are these unlockables that modify the game's difficulty and or add new items to the shop. It sounds neat, but it looks like an attempt to cover up the unbalanced nature of the game since the devs could have just balanced everything, instead of letting the players do it. I unlocked the weakened enemies plan early on since I thought it would get me past all the grinding, but no. It looks like only enemies are affected, not bosses, so you still have to grind for them. Also, all the weapons I unlock through plans get outleveled by the ones that get added by playing through the game naturally, so they're kinda useless in the long run. There are a lot to unlock other than difficulty modifiers, weapons, and items, like clothing that changes the wearer's stats by a minuscule amount. It's a nice way to unlock outfits and dress the characters up, but that grind, man. That grind sucks. Overall, I think the gameplay is fun. There are many mechanics and systems that interact well with each other, but that grind is real. If you don't mind the grind, then you're good, but if you do mind, get the weakened enemies plan as soon as you can, and use a level up guide to learn where all the best grinding spots are. Or as soon as you get the EXE meter, use rush attacks on every turn and spam EXE moves. It's story time. If you don't want spoilers, go to this timestamp. The story is pretty happy-go-lucky, full of jokes, and it's overall a relaxing time. Nothing too serious happens and it's not deep, so feel free to stay if you want. The story focuses on Neptune, one of game industry's goddesses and ruler of Planetune. One day during a battle, all the other goddesses kicks her ass after a mysterious voice told them to kick her ass, and she falls off the floating island where the battle was happening and lands in the forest. Neptune wakes up after being saved by Compa, a nursing student and one of the devs of the game. Compa, compile heart, get it? Anyway, Neptune lost all her memories and don't know what to do. Another mysterious voice, Histor, comes out of nowhere to offer help. Neptune accepts Histor's help in exchange for finding key fragments that can set her free of her prison, wherever that is. Along the way, the two meet IF, an adventurer, and what do you know, another death of the game. Get it? IF? Idea Factory? So you go around the map killing monsters to find out that there's a cult going around putting discs everywhere, spawning monsters. There's also this bitch called Conversation who's been trying to frame you as a member of the cult. Get it? Conversation? Like, wait, is there even a reference there? Turns out that Conversation is a witch-looking lady called R4 who wants to take over game industry. Get it? R4? Like, R4 for the DS for pirating games? I understood that reference. R4 hired this evil company called Avenir to help her with her plans, slowly taking over the 4 nations and taking all their shares. Shares is one of the mechanics of the game. You have to take back all of Avenir's shares and rebalance it throughout the 4 nations to get the best ending. The game doesn't tell you about this straight up, but it's there for a reason and it's implied that it's important to the story somewhat. Anyway, you go on an adventure meeting the other goddesses and the game companies to gather help. We got Noir, the goddess of Last Station, Wirt, the goddess of Lean Box, and Blanc, the goddess of Lowy. They each have their own quirks, and it's fun to see the cast interact with each other in a slice-of-life kind of way. It's not for everyone, and the visual novel sections last for a bit too long sometimes. At least some of the girls have excellent assets. I would like to flip those assets if you know what I'm saying. Eventually, you fuck up Avenir, disrupt R4's plans, gather all the key fragments, and free Histor, who looks way younger than how she sounds, and make 4 legendary weapons for each of the goddesses to confront R4. R4 has a backstory, something about her being one of the 5 former goddesses before the current ones, and that she's the one who gave birth to them. She wanted power to protect her children, but ended up being obsessed and turned evil. They just kinda came out of nowhere with that, like, that could have been interesting, but why didn't you expand on it? I know this game doesn't take shit seriously, but damn man, now I can't stop thinking about what could have been. In the end, the girls defeat R4, but she's about to explode Celestia, the place where the goddesses live. Neptune refuses to give up on saving R4 since she's like her grandma technically. Neptune beats up R4, wait, how's that gonna save her? And the explosion was contained, but Celestia is gone and Neptune and R4 are nowhere to be found. Some time passes and we see Histor going around to see how everyone's doing. At Compa's place, Neptune and R4 drops down out of nowhere and they're okay. R4 is now white and good now, I guess, but Neptune still has amnesia. But in the end, Neptune doesn't care about that and says that she now has new memories with her newfound friends and they lived happily ever after. The end. Now isn't that wholesome? This is definitely not something deep and a lot of people will think that it's childish, But you know what, sometimes you just gotta relax and shut your brain off, and that's what this story is for. Hyperdimension Neptunia Rebirth1 is a fun game. The graphics are not AAA, and the story is equivalent to junk food, but the gameplay is the one thing that holds this game up. I enjoy the combat, and it's deeper than what I expected. There's a lot of grinding involved though. 6 out of the 23 hours I spent with the game is just grinding, so that can turn off a lot of people. If you think you can turn your brain off and zone out for a few sessions, Neptunia is a decent choice. The whole series can be really cheap on sale too, so you won't have to burn your wallet. Needs more milfs though. That's all from me. I'll continue to cover the main series of Neptunia games, and maybe even some of the spin-offs. The action spin-offs, the other ones don't look too interesting to me. Anyway, remember to like and subscribe, and keep getting back up. Later.